listen. Oh, we're riding high, wild and free, dancing in the shadows, you and me. Feel the heat rise like a fever pitch. One of these days I'll flick the switch. Got that rhythm when the sparks will glow. Time moves fast and we need to go slow down to sink again. Listen.
Hello, everybody. Hello to all of you here on stage. We're going to talk about Multimodal Europe, how to scale collaboration across borders. I will ask these gentlemen to introduce themselves, and we'll start with you.
Good afternoon. Antonio Brunacci from FS Logistics, in charge of strategy and digital transformation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Paul Farr. I'm the Vice President for the Ground and Rail business at Siva Logistics.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Luis Perez. I'm the Commercial Manager, Head of the Division for Automotive, Bulk, and Short Sea Shipping, which means ferries, in the Port of Barcelona.
Good afternoon, I'm Paul Mazzato. I'm the head of rail freight at SNCF Réseau. And I'm also the president of RailNet Europe.
Hello, I'm Sébastien Vacher. Good afternoon, sorry. And I'm president of freight forwarder named Forwardis, part of member of the RLE group, Rail Logistics Europe of SNCF Group.
Thanks to all of you. I have a first question for you. I don't know who wants to answer first. Could you find me local models that work? Could you enlighten concrete cases that works? It can be in Italy, can be in France, wherever you want, in Spain, wherever you want. Who wants to start with it? Oh, okay, Italy first.
I'm going to start. Okay, this is a very good point. Let's say that local logistics models make truly effective when they move beyond the simple aggregation of several transportation modes and converge towards an integrated framework. This is because the real value does not lie in having maritime, rail, road, first and last mile operators acting per se, but making them cooperating by sharing a common vision. And when I say vision, I mean a strategical one, enabled by a set of things. First of all, let's say a common set of coordinated processes, and even a set of incentive in order to speed up the access to the market. Do you want already an example? Or,
yes, an example, please.
Just a concrete example of what we are doing is the strengthening of our presence in north of Europe by participating the terminal of Antwerp. That is not a mere infrastructure investment, but it's the way to put a strategical placehold along a very crucial northern corridor. That means having the whole coverage of a route that's fundamental to deliver capacity, to deliver service reliability, and to make all the players able to cover the entire value chain. Even from, let's say, an industrial perspective, this is a very peculiar point because Antwerp terminal just handles around 1.5 million freight per year and manages 2,500 trains per year. And in my opinion, just to get back to your initial question, is a concrete example on how we can upscale a local model to create a genuine European network, because starting from a local initiation, we've been able to build up a paradigm in Northern Europe by sharing a common vision from an industrial point of view, starting from northern and getting down to the south of Italy. This is it, almost there.
Thank you. You want to react, Paul?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of points to that, if I may. Yeah, I think, you know, when I look at collaboration across Europe, if I bring that a little bit closer to home, I think it's, let's be honest, it's far easier to collaborate on a much more local level. The systems are the same, the processes are the same, the language is the same, and quite often the systems and the data that sit behind it are the same. So I think we've got to take those learnings to be able to scale them up on a European scale, and even, you know, perhaps we'll talk about it later, even beyond that European scale. Without that, I think we're struggling. Modal shift, you know, is probably the most obvious one that springs to mind in terms of where we've been able to do things at a local level that still keep things local. You know, whether that's an inland waterway, whether that's a shift from road to rail, or, you know, from air to rail, or whatever that might be. But I think, you know, it's far easier because there's so much more commonality of process at a local level.
Agrees. Yeah, agrees.
That's one of the points.
Let's go.
Thank you. From our side, especially being a port, I believe that the real value we are bringing into the system, and which is scalable to anywhere, is the capacity of cooperation with the clients. To have a lot of different ways of participating into, I wouldn't say the managing, but the definition of the main targets of the port. It means the port is not just a place to load and discharge vessels, it's a place where your freight should gain value. And it should gain value through a very efficient way of moving it, through a way that allows all your hinterland to participate in the port activity. And when I say hinterland, I mean a very wide hinterland. We try to penetrate into the mainland through dry terminals that we try to manage, and we try to get customers which are interested in some targets which would be common to the port, right? We just awarded a new terminal to NYK together with ICO, their terminal group, and we see that we are and with our participation, of course, to create a model which would have two heads in Europe. So the Mediterranean and the North Sea cooperating through a couple of terminals that would be connected by shore sea shipping, but also by train. We are also proposing to our Chinese customers, come to Barcelona and we'll give you the capacity of getting into Europe. So these kind of initiatives, they are distinctive for good projects that could be assumed by other ports, so creating kind of a Mediterranean arc, which is getting more and more powerful.
You wanted to react?
No, I totally agree, even because from our perspective, we have to take into our consideration, let's say, 4 structural factors. The first one is intermodality as the key enabler to coverage the whole value chain. The second one, as said before, is targeted investments. That means looking at the assets, that means looking at the rolling stocks over there. Third, digitalization, which is the most important baseline to connect all the players and on the stubs along the value chain. And as you was underlining, I think one of the most winning factors is developing the capability to establish fruitful partnership, just because in such a way we can access the market very quickly.
If I may.
Ah.
No, sorry.
Il y en a un qui vient de se faire griller la priorité.
No, but it's quite interesting because, in fact, with these four assets, you need also what we call in France the chef d'orchestre. You have the musicians, but you need to organize
Governance.
And it's true that as a freight forwarder, we need to organize this for a customer. And concretely, sometimes, let's say, multimodal is just a way to transfer to the modal shifts. So as forwarders, we just listen the project of a customer who needs to send some product from let's say, take an example of sugar,
Yes.
for instance. Clearly, they had some needs to broadcast sugar in Italy without private sidings, difference. Okay, let's Coca-Cola and so on. You know, what's they consume a lot of sugar. So as forwarders, we organize for a producer of sugar company a dedicated train, what we call a company trains, that we can, let's say, organize and manage the flows from France to Italy via Switzerland. According, yes, you're right, the assets. We need to rent the assets, organize the railway undertaking through different country, and at the end also monitor with digitalizations. And this is what forwarders can do, and it's 2 trains per week, and at least the customer is quite satisfied because now we had 7 years of experience with this. So it's not only, I just want to underline the fact that multimodal and let's say collaboration, so cross-border, is not only line, but it can be also projects, dedicated projects with company trains.
Yeah.
That's my
Talking
remark.
about company train, Paul Matazo for SNCF Réseau. Give us an example of something that works on a local basis and can be scalable on the European basis.
Paul Mazzato, not Matazo, Mazzato. I'm saying this because last year. Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay, it's not right on the. Okay.
Anyway, I'll concur with what you said, which is that this is not easy in the first place. Processes are different. The infrastructure is different. The management of companies tend to have a national-oriented mindset. Regulatory bodies are different. So the truth is that it is quite a miracle that we end up having a significant share of cross-border trains in Europe, including in France. In France, we have 40% of rail freight trains which cross a border. Now, putting aside this day-to-day miracle, I can give you one explicit local initiative cross-border that was a success. Last year, as a matter of fact, in the summer of 2024, the traffic between Rotterdam and Italy through Switzerland, which used to go through Germany, couldn't go through Germany because there were some engineering works in Germany. And so we had this cooperation at the cross-border level to make sure that instead of doing Rotterdam, Switzerland, Italy via Germany, it was Rotterdam, Switzerland, Italy via France. And this was a success for 3 weeks. We diverted the traffic from Germany to France, 40 trains a night actually. But this was made possible because of a significant amount of preparation and cooperation for 2 or 3 years. So my statement is to say that yes, we can have local initiative to make this work, but this is fragile. This is not something that happens smoothly, spontaneously with little work. That's exactly the opposite.
Thank you. It started with you, Antonio, but you started to make a list of what makes a local model become efficient. We said it was culture of cooperation, technology, governance. But I have a question for all of you. What indicators show that these models you told us about are truly scalable? Do you have indicators for that? How do we know it will work at the European scale?
Yeah, I think let's be honest. I don't think we do know at this stage whether these these
experience
ideas will work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think trial and error becomes something that's a really important factor in terms of developing what does work. If I just take an example of a control tower, for example, actually putting something in place that gives visibility to all, whether that's on a local level, whether that's on an international level, starts to give us some of the answers to that question. Because, of course, sat behind all of that is the data that really tells us the indicators of, is this being used? Is it not being used? What's our volume capacity? What's our opportunity? So I think we start with some of that really basic information before we try and start to expand too quickly, I think.
Okay. We've been talking about what's going very well. Let's talk about what doesn't work. What are the obstacles to the transition to a European scale? Have you noticed obstacles that really are complicated to go through? Luis?
Well, tell me about obstacles. It's nice to hear you talking about European rail when in Spain we don't even have the tracks. So in 2010 we upgraded the rail system just to connect the port of Barcelona with the French border. And it's not been easy because it's not just the track, it's the power, is the locomotive, is the safety systems, is an infrastructure which has been intended for passengers. But, when there is a necessity, when you are able to identify the needs of the customers, you could walk over these problems. Of course, there are activities which are more prone to go through the obstacles, and others needs much more work. I agree with the idea of you really need to work very much into preparing, into getting deep agreements with rail operators to convince the customers, to show them the advantages, to use very much the light of the decarbonation, because really we talk very much about the port is going to be cleaner. We are already giving electrical power to the ships so they are not polluting when they are alongside. We need electric tracks, but we already have an electric vehicle which is 700 meters long, and it runs every day and pretty efficiently. And this is the train. So I was telling now before coming here, I'm a ship's captain, but for the last 16 years working in the Port of Barcelona, I talk much more about trains than ships. Because the train is really...
That's a good indicator.
The train is really an excellent tool to connect the port. My pleasure to show you a little bit one of our brand new terminals, but also to show you how we are connected to Europe by train. So this is a very serious effort. We are very, very happy to have all these rail operators giving that service. And I believe that's going to be a success history. It's going to keep growing, and we'll get to where we want to go.
Okay, Antonio, you wanted to talk, to react.
No,
okay.
not to react.
No,
but if you want, I can answer about what you called obstacles. I would not say obstacles. So let's say that even in this case, we have a systemic panel of challenges that we have to face.
I see obstacles, you see challenges.
Yeah.
Good mindset.
I see opportunities.
Oh, okay. Who wants to say more?
Solutions.
Let's go, Antonio.
Just because we have to take into our account, first of all, corridors that must simultaneously be working together in order to deliver capacity, business continuity, and even one of these elements fails, the whole competitiveness of the system is getting undermined. That's an element. Second one, we have to bring in our attention the nodes. That means ports, that means inland terminals, terminals themselves. Even in this case, if one of these elements is not in a direction of full productivity, all the system insisting onto the corridors get failed. We have structural troubles. We are all the time talking about a market that in general is characterized by very low margins. That's an issue about indicators. And the master of indicators is EBIT, in my opinion. And we have to cooperate in order to find out a shared model based on common standards and rule to scale up such a market that all the time lives on an average which is not so much satisfying from such a perspective. As said before, data and digital, they are very important enablers, but very often they act as bottlenecks. Even in this case, we have process to take into our consideration, harmonization of specification in order to speak up a common language, as said before. I'm going to stop now.
Sébastien.
I could continue.
No.
Okay. No, sorry.
After.
No,
just
but
Sébastien want to react.
In fact, we can speak a lot of time, but we don't have a lot of time, but okay. But what is interesting is about for obstacle and
No, you said solutions.
Solutions.
He said opportunities.
That's why I was
challenges.
I will come to the solutions. In fact,
fair play.
The way that the customer look at you and judge you is the best KPI for me. And if you have a good judgment, and for Forwardis we have only 10 years, and we celebrated our 10 years in January. And I let you see on the video what they think about us, of the short video of 2 minutes, and they just explain you what can be the success of freight forwarder when you can have some solutions.
Okay, let's see that.
Nous sommes très contents, mes équipes sont très contentes des équipes de Forwardis.
En Forwardis, on a trouvé quelque chose d'humain. On est vraiment content de ce partenariat.
Ce qu'on apprécie avec Forwardis, c'est la capacité de discuter, d'échanger et de trouver des solutions dans un esprit d'intérêt commun.
We have a tremendous experience of working with the team and a lot of confidence in their ability. Very happy.
Des beaux échanges et un vrai partage de valeurs.
I'm happy to work with Forwardis as of now.
On sait qu'on peut compter sur Forwardis.
L'expérience avec Forwardis est positive.
They are very experienced, very good in service, always reachable, always focusing on solutions, and that's why, we like to work with Forwardis, and that's why we are hoping for a future.
Forwardis is here.
Yeah, so
they talk of you like my children talk of me.
So you see,
you give them alcohol.
They pronounce many times solutions.
Yeah.
I didn't
right.
make it.
Right.
That's why.
Okay, who wants to tell us about obstacles, challenges, opportunities that we can face? Paul Mazzato.
Yeah, I'll add some more to what you already mentioned. I guess that one of the main obstacles that we have is the fluidity of information cross-border. And I'll illustrate this with an example which you know very well. 2 weeks ago, on the first day, we were told that connection from France to the port of Barcelona will be closed on the next day.
Wow. How do we do?
We were very surprised as well.
And I'm not blaming anyone on this. But of course, this decision was not taken like this. It has taken probably weeks or months before this decision was made. But there was a complete lack of transparency and communication on this. And I guess that this has a lot to do with digitalization because, in essence, the purpose of digitization is to facilitate the exchange of information. So for me, the solution to facilitate cross-border cooperation is precisely the implementation of digital systems that helps to facilitate operations, that helps to facilitate the management of incidents, things like this. And this is clearly an example of an incident which should not have happened like this.
Paul Farr, is that an obstacle that can become an opportunity?
Yes. Yeah.
Explain me how.
I think, look, again, from my perspective, data. It does come back to the point you make around data and data quality, because I think we exist in such a world where we almost operate in effectively a zero-sum game. That where there is a winner, there has to be a loser. But that cannot be how we approach challenges like this, because if I just think for a moment about CEVA Logistics, we are a big organisation. We operate our own trucks, but everything else we operate typically in the ground and rail business requires a third party. And in order to work well with that third party, you need to collaborate. Whether that collaboration's across a carrier partner, whether that's a rail partner, whether that's a port. And actually, at every point of that organisation, there's an opportunity, multiple opportunities for failure from that perspective. But I think that open, honest communication, that open, honest dialogue, and actually even getting to the point where we're sharing data in a non-commercially sensitive way will allow us to collaborate more.
Yeah, I agree. That's the reason why I was talking before about the digitalization as one of the key factors capable to make such a process coordination easier than now. So this is a very key issue we have to face. And obviously, we are not talking about sensitive data, but for example, going for building up a federated data space where all the operators could share structural and operational data could be one of the key factors. I'm pretty much convinced about this.
Yeah, about data, we realize that the amount of data we are having is absolutely huge. Maybe it's even too much, because we have thousands of ways to accumulate data. The point is, how do you use it? How do we put this data at the service of the community, right? And this is something that we could do through digitalization, through new systems that could put things in order and make it easy to use for taking decisions. At the end of the day, what we need is to take the right decisions. And we, as a logistics environment, we are like an orchestra. Our best performance is the performance of the worst of our players. Yeah. So we don't need extraordinary fluid players. We need an average, which should be higher and higher and higher. But we couldn't accept that some parts of the network are just staying there, sitting, and not evolving.
Coordination, governance, and a common language.
And we haven't talked yet about regulatory fragmentation with, between national standards, between custom procedures, between environmental rules. Is that an obstacle, an opportunity? Can we find solutions?
Again, I think, where all of those challenges exist, of course we can find solutions. But But I think, you know, as I reflect on a couple of the things that you mentioned there, customs process is a very unique process on an individual country basis. You know, obviously being from the UK, having seen Brexit from both sides of the equation, actually, you really start to realise what delays mean and the consequences that exists as a result of a platform that is complicated, that's very complex, that you need a team of expertise to actually even understand the smallest part of that. And actually, if we don't simplify something like customs in the future, that will cause us a much bigger problem in the longer term.
Paul?
Yeah, I hear that we are saying that the solution lies with data. You say federative model. I hear the model of central player, and this makes me believe that
federated is not looking at a central player. It's just the opposite model.
Okay, federative, not confederation. That's what you mean. Well, we can discuss about this. This is
federation stands for distribution. That's quite different.
Okay, I see your point. But I think we must wonder whether the right approach is a bottom-up solution where we try to take advantage of local initiatives and try to scale them up at the European level, or whether it should not be, at least to some part, a top-down approach, where there is a common vision which is provided to all players, at least on this very rigid part, which is the infrastructure management, and then make sure that all players complied with this common vision. And from this, I tend to believe that for the railway business, recent initiative at the European level vis-à-vis infrastructure, this is the so-called 10T regulation, which was adopted last year, and a new initiative about operations, which is called the capacity regulation, which should be adopted in June this year. Whether these two pillars are not going to give us the right vision so that we can take advantage of this top-down approach and implement a European management of the railway business that is truly efficient, because it is implemented once simultaneously across Europe.
If I had,
Sébastien?
What is also interesting is about the subsidies help in Europe. I think we have a lot of, let's say, creativity in Europe for helping the model shift. And it's clearly also an explanation, a training of how we can use these subsidies for helping the customer to switch from road to rail. And here, I think it's really important to understand clearly the subsidies, the amount, and how to use. Let's take the certificat d'économie d'énergie, the C2E, what we call it. And I think it's a really important tool to help in order to have a model shift. So we have a lot of help from the government in terms of our environment to switch. So it's up to also the rail sectors to explain, to defend, and to help our customer also for an advice to switch. And I think it's also a question of willingness and be present on the market to explain, okay? Because I think we have quite a lot of help in terms of our environment now. And I think the conscience of the politics to switch is very important in Europe. So we need to take this opportunity now.
We have 10 minutes left. I'd like to hear the audience. We have microphones in the audience. If you want to ask questions, or if you want to give us your expertise, don't hesitate. You want to raise the hand first? First question? Yes, here, please. Just tell us who you are and give us your question or your expertise.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Maite. I work for OTIV. And I was thinking, I have a question for Paul Farr. When you think about the quite near future, how do you think autonomous rail can contribute to scale collaboration?
Sorry, autonomous?
Rail, so autonomous solutions for rail.
Yeah. Look. I think that's something that we will absolutely consider going forward in the future, and actually not. If I perhaps extend that into the ground business as well, we've seen a significant shortage of drivers. Both in terms of less so rail, but still to some extent. Certainly on the road, it's a very aging population in both parts of that business. We've got to do something to change that. We do many things from a CEVA perspective, whether that's introducing much younger people into the organisation, training people to get their driving licence, accelerate that through their car, through to a small vehicle, big truck. But actually, that only attracts quite a small proportion of people. So for me, autonomous vehicles on the road, autonomous rail in the future, I think it's one to certainly consider fully.
Sébastien?
If I may, just one thing. When I get up in the morning, it's because I believe on what I do every day on Forwardis, and the customer said what you saw. But what is very important I think we as a freight forwarder, sometimes we see a different approach on road and rail. And the way that we work is never to opposite the different modes, is to see how we can be complementary in order that getting more and more, and I think road wanted to switch some volumes. And I think it's also good to help also road to go for the rail. And I think combine is really the good border in order to switch this. So I think it's really our time, and it's not only rail that they can move some switch, but also barges and of maritime. But barges also is really important. And for this, we use this free mode, and sometimes we try to make a synthesis of different modes in order to have the customer happy. Because at the end, it's the customer who drives us, in fact. Okay, so we need to convince him.
Okay, wants to answer this question? No? Another question in the audience over there.
Thank you.
Please raise your hand so we can see you. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello everybody. It's nice to hear your talk. Very interesting. So my name is Daniel Hachai. I am the assistant professor and the academic director of the MSc Supply Chain Management at EMLV, which is the École du Management Léonard de Vinci. So my question is actually dedicated on the operational side of things and basically operations research. So multimodal transportation is, of course, one of the key points of the modern supply chains. And the question I have is basically affiliated with the disruptions that we have right now. So, for example, if we have, considering the events that we have around the world, so if we have a major disruption in the supply chain, and we need to literally reschedule our production or maybe to see the different ways and means of transportation. So can you please elaborate around fault-tolerant, resilient supply chain, basically maybe of the nearest future? I would be great to hear it. Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps I'll start with that. Thank you for that question. I think you've absolutely called the point out in terms of where we are on a sort of geopolitical position. Fuel, is clearly the hot topic at the moment. We've seen in some European countries fuel rise as much as 50% over the past couple of weeks, and that is not sustainable in terms of that. So. Look, we've got to find alternatives to our, we're typically a diesel-orientated business. We have been, for a long time, and from both in the rail industry and in the road industry. We are slowly moving towards electric. That will certainly go a long way to get us to where we need to go. That is quite a slow burn, though, I think, in terms of where we are, certainly on sort of road transportation. We use a lot of alternative fuels, both within the shipping business and within the transport business, most notably HVO fuel. We've seen that as a real big win for us, in terms of part way towards sort of full sustainability. We use wind power, in the shipping part of the business, barges as alternatives to rail. So, I think in summary, we can't just rely on one single mode of operation, and exactly that point. Multimodal across Europe is exactly that. Yes, it's there to improve the situation, but it's also there to give us resilience in the future.
Yeah, in our case, I have to tell you that we work very much on defining different scenarios. We are very conscious that problems are there. They will arise any moment. In the port, we have the ships, we have the trains, we have the tracking. We don't have barges because we don't have rivers, but apart of that, we have everything. And the point is to keep working to define the possible conditions, to make consultancy with the different companies that could be affected, and define solutions. And solutions are there. For example, with the Suez Canal problems, we start feeling a big increase on the container transshipment. They almost clock our terminals. So we had in our pocket kind of a rule to help the import-export cargo to run first and to leave the transshipment a little bit behind. So that helped very much the industry in our hinterland. So this kind of solutions, sometimes it seems, wow, this is a lot of thinking and nothing else. But no, they remain on your file, and then you can use it.
Antonio first, and Paul Mazzato after.
Okay, let's say that the question answer has been a very complex one. And I don't want to be rude, but let's say on a general note, when it comes to identifying the most reliable and resilient model when we are going to face disruptions, in my opinion, the honest answer is it does not exist. Just because if you look in its huge complexity, the whole chain, each element of that chain has a single point of leakage. So maybe as a matter of research, and you are one of the guys in charge of doing that, one day we'll find, and let me call it an algorithm, but in practice, from my perspective, the answer is no.
Paul?
Yes, I can give a few ideas to go in your direction, but probably more in the longer term. I guess densifying the railway network will help. By this, I mean being able to offer alternative routes, so that if the normal routes is not available for whatever reason, you have an alternative route. Of course, this is long, and interoperability across Europe will certainly help this. But there are other solutions, like the use of bimodal locomotives could give us more flexibility, and I see that this is becoming more and more popular. And just to add on this, you raise resilience in relation to what is currently happening on the geopolitical matter. But resilience must also be addressed, having in mind the climate change. And this is probably an even more challenging issue for railway business and for the transport system in Europe.
I have one last question, and after we have to end this debate. What are the cross-border quick wins that Europe could implement as early as this year, 2026 or 2027, if you could do it like that? Which one would you like to do? Luis, you want to start?
Well, yes. What Europe could do for us could help us very much on the regulation. We need a common ground to play. not just for the rail, but also for the tracking, for the length of the car carrier tracks, and for the rail, of course, there is a huge impact on the infrastructure, a huge impact on a very rigid system of moving the vehicles, right? So we expect Europe to be on our side and help us to make an homogenization for all the countries.
Thank you, Luis. Who want to answer this question? A quick win? Cross-border quick win? Paul?
Cross-border
Make a wish.
quick win, visibility across multi-platforms. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe-
Sébastien?
Maybe more locomotive, interoperable locomotive, because in fact
Okay.
it's a tool for cross-border, and we know that now locomotive can run through different countries, and it's a cost a lot for the railway undertaking, but at the moment that we are more and more, we will have more and more trains.
Okay.
For sure.
Paul?
Yeah, fast access to the rail network. At SNCF Réseau, we now have an IT system that enables our customers to get a path in a matter of seconds like this. And we could easily, in the next couple of years, deploy this with one of our neighbor and make sure that we can offer an immediate access on a cross-border basis.
Okay, and Antonio?
Just an example coming from our home. That's even in this case, it's a digital platform. Just today we launched an evolution of our platform with its widget 2.0, which in practice creates a concrete connection between the market and the returning of operational solutions in terms of services to be handled by FS Logistics. And this happens via a digital platforms. That's a concrete quick win.
Okay, thank you. Merci, on peut les applaudir. Thank you everyone. Thank you in the audience for questions.
Listen. Oh, we're riding high, wild and free, dancing in the shadows, you and me. Feel the heat rise like a fever pitch. One of these days I'll flick the switch. Got that rhythm when the sparks will glow. Time moves fast and we need to go slow down to sink again. Listen.